Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Playing with Power MTG, where we play with the most powerful cards in the most powerful formats. Tonight's game is brought to you by TCGplayer.com, where you can find all of your cards online while still supporting local game stores. Dragon Shield for all of the best accessories to protect your decks, and through Patreon, where you get awesome benefits for your direct support. We are back with another $100 budget game. We had a ton of fun playing in our last game, and you really all enjoyed it as well, so we decided to do it again. We built 4 more $100 budget decks, and decided to take them for a spin against one another. For more information on how we approached our budget decks, as well as the main ways we assembled them, take a look at our previous budget video. The link is in the description below and the card above. So, let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Mike piloting Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy. This deck cost over $5,000 to build completely budgetless. Mike removed the expensive tutors, expensive mana base, and the super expensive Time Twister from the deck. This version saved over $5,000, all while still keeping the original concept of the deck. Mike's opening hand contains a Temple of Mystery, Autumn's Veil, Negate, Talisman of Curiosity, Leafkin Druid, and 2 forests. Next, we have Adam piloting the 4-color pairing of Tymna the Weaver and Kraum, Ludovic's Opus. This deck, called Opus Thief, cost nearly $9,000 to build completely budgetless. Most of the cost comes from the expensive mana base, expensive reserve list cards, and once again, from Time Twister. Adam replaced many of these expensive wheels with more budget-friendly versions. He saved over $8,000 while still keeping the original concept of the deck. Adam's opening hand contains a Frantic Search, Dark Tutelage, Darksteel Ingot, Winds of Rebuke, Mystic Monastery, and a Temple of Silence, and an island. After that we have Zach piloting Lavinia, Azorius Renegade. This deck cost over $4,700 to build completely budgetless. Much of this cost comes from the extremely expensive reserve list cards like Tabernacle and Transmute Artifact, as well as the expensive mana rocks. Zach removed many of these items and was able to save over $4,000 on the deck. Zach's opening hand contains a Mystic Remora, Factor Fiction, Arcane Laboratory, Exotic Orchard, 2 islands, and a Plains. Finally, we have Ryan piloting Anje Falconwrath. This deck costs over $2,000 to build completely budgetless. Most of the cost comes from the expensive tutors and fast mana in order to speed up the deck. Ryan was able to swap out these while still keeping the original World Gorger combo intact. Ryan's opening hand contains a Buried Alive, Night's Whisper, Sulphurous Springs, Swamp, and his London Mulligans are a Senseless Rage, Mountain, and a Swamp. Without further ado, let's kick off this grammatically garbled gang of glamorous graciousness. Mike wins the Spoiled Milk drinking contest and gets to start us off. Mike draws a card for turn, and then plays a Temple of Mystery. He scries 1 and passes the turn. Adam draws a card for turn, and then plays a Mystic Monastery for turn. Adam passes. Zach draws a card for turn, and then plays an island. Zach passes. Ryan draws a card for turn, and then plays a Sulphurous Springs. Ryan ends the turn. Mike draws, and then plays an island for turn. He casts Leafkin Druid. Mike passes the turn to Adam. Adam draws, and then plays a Temple of Silence. He scries 1 and passes the turn to Zach. Zach draws, and then plays a Plains for turn. He casts Snap, returning Leafkin Druid back to Mike's hand and untapping 2 lands. He casts his commander, Lavinia, Azorius Renegade. With nothing else, Zach passes the turn. Ryan draws, and then plays a Swamp for turn. He casts Night's Whisper. He draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Ryan passes the turn. Mike draws, and then plays a Forest for turn. He casts Talisman of Curiosity. He recasts Leafkin Druid and gives the turn to Adam. Adam draws, and then plays an island for turn. He casts Darksteel Ingot. Adam passes. Zach draws, and then plays an Exotic Orchard for turn. He casts an Arcane Laboratory. Everyone sighs a bit, and Zach ends his turn. Ryan draws, and then plays a Foreboding Ruins for turn, into play tapped. Ryan passes. Mike draws, and then plays an island for turn. He casts his commander, Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy. In response, Ryan casts Red Elemental Blast, targeting Kinnan. Kinnan is countered, and Mike passes the turn. Adam draws, and then plays an island for turn. He casts Dark Tutelage. Adam gives the turn to Zach. Zach draws, and then plays an island for turn. He moves to combat and attacks Adam with his Lavinia. Adam takes the hit, and Zach passes the turn. Ryan draws, and then taps his Sulphurous Springs to cast his commander, Anje Falconwrath. Ryan passes the turn. Mike draws, and then plays a Forest for turn. He recasts his commander, Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy. It resolves this time, and Mike passes the turn. At the end of Mike's turn, Adam casts Opt. He scries 1 and draws a card, and then moves to his turn. During his upkeep, Adam reveals a counterspell off of his Dark Tutelage. He draws, and then plays an Exotic Orchard for turn. He casts Fate Unraveler. Ryan really hates this card, but it resolves. Adam passes the turn. At the end of Adam's turn, Zach casts Factor Fiction. He reveals a Dovin Hand of Control, Island, Opt, Omen Machine, and a Deafening Silence. Ryan separates them into 2 piles, and then Zach chooses the first pile. Then the turn moves to Zach. During his draw step, Zach takes a damage from Fate Unraveler. He plays an island for turn. He then casts a Hushbringer. Ryan also really hates this card, and it resolves. With nothing else, Zach passes the turn. Ryan draws and starts off his turn by activating Anja, discarding Muck Drub, triggering Anja, untapping her, drawing a card, and taking a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He activates Anja again, discarding Nightshade Assassin, Big Game Hunter, Asylum Visitor, Bloodhall Priest, Weirded Vampire, and Psychotic Episode, untapping Anja each time, drawing a card, and taking a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He plays a Swamp for turn. He casts Pyroclasm. In response, not wanting everyone's advantage to be cleared, including his own, Mike casts Negate, countering Pyroclasm. All finished up, Ryan passes the turn. During his draw step, Mike takes a damage from Fate Unraveler. He does nothing else and passes the turn. At the end of Mike's turn, Zach casts Opt, scrying 1, drawing a card, and taking a damage from Fate Unraveler. During his upkeep, Adam reveals a Narset, Parter of Veils off of Dark Tutelage. He draws and then plays a Tranquil Cove for turn, gaining 1 life. He casts Narset, Parter of Veils. He activates Narset, looking at the top 4, and revealing Teferi's Ageless Insight. All through, Adam passes. During his draw step, Zach takes a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He plays an island for turn. He moves to combat and attacks Narset with Hushbringer. Narset ticks down, and Zach gains 1 life. In his second main phase, Zach casts Mystic Remora. Zach passes the turn. During his draw step, Ryan takes a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He plays a Mountain for turn and passes. At the end of Ryan's turn, Mike activates Kinnan, looking at the top 5 and putting Prophet of Distortion onto the battlefield. During his draw step, Mike takes a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He casts a Simic Signet. Mystic Remora triggers, and Zach draws a card, also taking a damage off of Fate Unraveler. Mike passes the turn. During his upkeep, Adam reveals a Manalith off of Dark Tutelage. He draws and then plays a Swamp for turn. He casts Manalith, paying for Mystic Remora. Adam passes. At the end of Adam's turn, Zach casts Into the Royal, kicked. He bounces Manalith back to Adam's hand and draws a card, taking a damage from Fate Unraveler. During his upkeep, Zach lets his Mystic Remora die. During his draw step, he takes a damage from Fate Unraveler. He plays an island for turn. He casts Omen Machine. This is a lock to the entire table from any new cards hitting the battlefield with Lavinia out. Everyone passes priority, and Omen Machine resolves. He attacks Narset with Hushbringer. Narset ticks down, and Zach gains 1 life. Zach passes the turn. At the end of Zach's turn, Ryan casts Abrade, targeting Omen Machine. Abrade resolves, Omen Machine is destroyed, everyone breathes a sigh of relief, and then the turn moves to Ryan. During Ryan's draw step, he takes a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He casts Wishclaw Talisman. Ryan passes. At the end of Ryan's turn, Mike activates Kinnan, looking at the top 5 and putting Aquarian Elves onto the battlefield, naming blue as it enters. During Mike's draw step, he takes a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He does nothing else and passes the turn. During his upkeep, Adam reveals Negate off of Dark Tutelage. He draws and then moves to combat. He attacks Zach with Fate Unraveler. Zach takes it, and in his second main phase, Adam casts Teferi's Ageless Insight. He passes the turn, discarding the hand size. During his draw step, Zach takes a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He plays a Plains for turn. He moves to combat, attacking Narset with Hushbringer. Narset dies, and Zach gains 1 life. In his second main phase, Zach casts his own Narset Parter of Veils. In response, Adam casts Negate, countering the spell. With nothing else, Zach passes. During his draw step, Ryan takes a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He does nothing else and passes the turn. At the end of Ryan's turn, Mike activates Kinnan, looking at the top 5 and putting Nezahal, Primal Tide, onto the battlefield. He activates Kinnan again, looking at the top 5, failing to find, and then moves to his turn. During his draw step, Mike takes a damage off of Fate Unraveler. He moves to combat, attacking Adam with Nezahal and Kinnan. Adam takes it, and Mike passes the turn. At the end of Mike's turn, Ryan activates Anja, discarding Anja's Ravager and then casting Anja's Ravager for its madness cost. He then untaps Anja and draws a card, taking a damage from Fate Unraveler. During his upkeep, Adam reveals a Stern Dismissal from his Dark Tutelage. He draws and then casts Stern Dismissal, targeting Nezahal. Nezahal triggers, Mike draws a card, and takes a damage from Fate Unraveler. In response, Mike discards 3 cards and exiles Nezahal. Stern Dismissal fizzles, and Adam passes the turn. At the end of Adam's turn, Nezahal re-enters the battlefield. During his draw step, Zach takes a damage from Fate Unraveler. He moves to combat and attacks Mike with Hushbringer. Mike takes it, and in his second main phase, Zach casts Blind Obedience. Nezahal triggers, Mike draws, and takes a damage off of Fate Unraveler. Blind Obedience resolves, and then Zach plays an island for turn. Zach passes. At the end of Zach's turn, Ryan activates Anja, discarding Fiery Temper and casting it for its madness cost, targeting Hushbringer. Hushbringer dies, Anja untaps, and Ryan draws, taking a damage from Fate Unraveler. Still in the end step, Mike activates Kinnan, looking at the top 5 and putting Elysian Caryatid onto the battlefield. Still in the end step, Adam casts Frantic Search. Nezahal triggers and Mike draws, taking a damage. Then Frantic Search resolves and Adam draws 4 cards through Teferi's Ageless Insight, discards 2, and then untaps 3 lands. Then the turn finally moves to Ryan. During his draw step, Ryan takes a damage. He exiles Simian Spirit Guide from his hand, adding 1 red. He casts Azra Oddsmaker. He moves to combat, triggering Azra, discarding a card, targeting Anja's Ravager. He attacks Zach with Anja's Ravager. Ravager triggers, and with the trigger on the stack, Adam responds by casting Notion Thief. In response, Zach casts Counterspell. Blind Obedience triggers, and Zach extorts, with everyone losing 1 and Zach gaining 3. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws a card, taking a damage. Notion Thief is countered, and then Anja's Ravager trigger resolves. Ryan discards his hand and draws 3 cards, taking 3 damage. Zach blocks the Ravager with Lavinia. In his second main phase, Ryan plays a mountain. He passes. At the end of Ryan's turn, Mike activates Kinnan. He looks at the top 5 and fails to find. During his draw step, Mike takes a damage. He plays an island for turn. He attacks Adam with Nezahal. Adam takes it, and in his second main phase, Mike casts Biomancer's Familiar. In response, Adam casts Essence Scatter, targeting the Biomancer. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws a card, taking a damage. Familiar is countered, and Mike passes the turn, discarding to hand size. During his upkeep, Adam reveals a Temple of Epiphany from Dark Tutelage. He draws and starts off his turn by casting Radiant Flames, where the converge equals 3. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws, taking a damage. In response, Mike casts Muddle the Mixture, targeting Radiant Flames. In response, Zach casts Dispel, targeting Muddle the Mixture. Blind Obedience triggers, and Zach extorts. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws, taking a damage. Mike then activates Kinnan, looking at the top 5 and failing to find. He activates Kinnan again, looking at the next 5 and putting a Tidespout Tyrant onto the battlefield. Dispel counters Muddle the Mixture, and then Radiant Flames resolves, wiping most of the board. Adam plays a Temple of Epiphany, scrying 1. Adam passes. During his draw step, Zach takes a damage. In his main phase, he recasts his commander, Lavinia, Azorius Renegade. Blind Obedience triggers, and Zach extorts. He plays a Glacial Fortress for turn. Zach ends his turn. At the end of Zach's turn, Adam casts Winds of Rebuke, targeting Tidespout Tyrant. Nezahal triggers, Mike draws, and takes a damage. Then Tidespout bounces. During his draw step, Ryan takes a damage. In his main phase, he recasts his commander, Anja Falconwrath. Ryan passes. During his draw step, Mike takes a damage. He plays a command tower for turn. He attacks Adam with Nezahal. Adam blocks with Fate Unraveler, much to the joy of the rest of the table, and to the narration of this video if I'm being honest. In his second main phase, Mike recasts Kinnan. Mike passes the turn and discards to hand size. During his upkeep, Adam reveals a Dwar Isle Refuge through Dark Tutelage. He draws, and in his first main phase, he casts Windfall. In response, Mike casts Wilt, targeting Teferi's Ageless Insight. Insight is destroyed, and Windfall resolves. Everyone discards their hand and draws 7. As part of the discard, Ryan discarded Strength of Lunacy and casts it for his madness cost, targeting Anja. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws. Adam plays a Temple of Malice, scrying 1. Adam passes. At the end of Adam's turn, Zach casts Disenchant, targeting Wishclaw Talisman. Blind Obedience triggers, and Zach extorts. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws a card. Then Wishclaw Talisman is destroyed, and Zach moves to his turn. Zach draws, and then plays a Port Town for turn, revealing a Plains from his hand. He casts Sun Titan, extorting it with Blind Obedience. Sun Titan enters, and Zach targets Mystic Remora in his graveyard with the Sun Titan trigger. In response, Adam casts Impulse. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws. Impulse resolves, he looks at the top 4, puts 1 into his hand, and the rest on bottom. Then Sun Titan's trigger resolves, and Zach brings back Mystic Remora. He attacks Mike with his Lavinia. Mike takes it, and Zach passes the turn. At the end of Zach's turn, Ryan pays 2 life to cycle Street Raid, drawing a card. Ryan draws, and starts off his turn by casting Chaos Warp, targeting Arcane Laboratory. Nezahal and Mystic trigger, and Mike and Zach draw a card. In response, Zach casts Mystical Dispute, extorting it through Blind Obedience. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws. Ryan pays for Mystical Dispute, and Chaos Warp resolves. Zach shuffles Arcane Laboratory back into his library, and then reveals the top card, which is a Dig Through Time. Ryan plays a mountain for turn. He activates Anja, discarding Alchemist's Greeting, untapping Anja, and drawing a card. He activates Anja, discarding Insatiable Gorgers, untapping Anja, and drawing again. Ryan passes the turn. At the end of Ryan's turn, Mike taps his talisman to cast Nature's Claim, targeting Zach's Blind Obedience. Mystic Remore triggers, and Zach draws a card. Blind Obedience is destroyed, and Zach gains 4 life. Then the turn moves to Mike. Mike draws, and then starts off his turn by casting Narset, Parter of Veils. Mystic Remore triggers, and Zach draws a card. He activates Narset, looking at the top 4 and revealing an Isochron Scepter. He plays an island for turn. He casts Birds of Paradise. He passes the turn, discarding to hand size. During his upkeep, Adam reveals a mountain off of Dark Tutelage. He draws, and then plays a Temple of Deceit, scrying 1. He casts Verity Circle. Mystic Remora and Nezahal trigger, and Mike and Zach each draw a card. In response, Ryan activates Anja, discarding Murderous Compulsion, untapping Anja and drawing a card. He activates Anja again, discarding a mountain. He goes to draw, but that's when everyone reminds him of the Narset on the battlefield, so he doesn't get his draw. With nothing else, Verity Circle resolves. Adam passes the turn. During his upkeep, Zach pays for his Mystic Remora. He draws and then plays a Plains for turn. Zach moves to combat, and Adam responds by activating Verity Circle, tapping down Zach's Sun Titan, and drawing a card. Zach attacks Adam with Lavinia. Adam takes it, and in his second main phase, Zach casts Thalia, Heretic Cathar. He casts a Tormod's Crypt, triggering Nezahal with Mike drawing a card. He casts Mana Breach, triggering Nezahal again, with Mike drawing again. All through, Zach passes. Ryan draws, and then plays a Swamp for turn. He looks at Narset, Verity Circle, and Tormod's Crypt, and decides to pass the turn. At the end of Ryan's turn, Mike activates Kinnan, looking at the top 5 and putting a Maraleaf Pixie onto the battlefield. Mike draws and then plays an island for turn. He activates Narset, looking at the top 4 and revealing a Beast Within. He does nothing else and passes. At the end of Mike's turn, Zach delves away some of his graveyard to cast Dig Through Time. Mana Breach triggers, and Zach returns a land to his hand. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws a card. He looks at the top 7, puts 2 into his hand and the rest on bottom. Then Mike discards to hand size. During his upkeep, Adam reveals a Red Elemental Blast from Dark Tutelage. He draws and then plays a Swiftwater Cliffs for turn, gaining 1 life. He does nothing else and passes. At the end of Adam's turn, Zach casts Reality Shift, targeting Nezahal. Mana Breach triggers, and Zach returns a land to his hand. In response, Mike activates Nezahal, discarding 3 cards and exiling it. Then Adam discards to hand size. During his upkeep, Zach pays for his Mystic Remora. He draws and then plays an island for turn. He moves to combat, and Adam responds by activating Verity Circle, tapping down Sun Titan, and drawing a card. He activates Verity Circle again, tapping down Thalia, but not drawing because of Narset. Zach then attacks Adam with Lavinia. Adam takes it, and in his second main phase, Zach casts Rule of Law. Mana Breach triggers, and Zach returns a land to his hand. Zach passes the turn. At the end of Zach's turn, Nezahal returns to the battlefield. Also in the end step, Mike casts Beast Within, targeting Rule of Law. Mystic Remora triggers, Mike doesn't pay, but Zach doesn't draw due to Narset. Mana Breach triggers, and Mike returns a land to his hand. Rule of Law is destroyed, and Zach creates a 3/3 beast. Then the turn moves to Ryan. Ryan draws, and then plays a mountain for turn. He does nothing else, and passes. At the end of Ryan's turn, Mike activates Kinnan. He looks at the top 5 and puts Fierce Empath onto the battlefield. Fierce Empath triggers, and Mike fetches up a Regal Force into his hand. Mike activates Kinnan again, looking at the top 5, and putting Reclamation Sage onto the battlefield. Reclamation Sage triggers, and it destroys Zach's Mana Breach. Mike draws, and then moves to combat, attacking Adam with Reclamation Sage and Kinnan. Adam declares no blocks, and dies. In his second main phase, he casts Regal Force. It enters, and Mike draws 6 cards. He follows up by casting Seedborn Muse. Mike passes the turn. At the end of Mike's turn, Zach casts Swords to Plowshares, targeting Seedborn Muse. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws. In response, Mike casts Arcane Denial, targeting Swords to Plowshares. Mystic Remora triggers, and Zach draws a card. In response, Ryan casts Bolt Bend, targeting Arcane Denial, changing the target of Arcane Denial to Bolt Bend itself. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws. Mystic Remora triggers, but Zach doesn't draw due to Narset. In response, Mike casts Opt, hoping to find an answer. He scries to the bottom and draws a card. Sadly, he did not find what he wanted. Bolt Bend resolves, Arcane Denial fizzles, and then Swords to Plowshares exiles Seedborn Muse. Mike gains 2 life and then discards to hand size. During his upkeep, Zach lets his Mystic Remora die. Also in his upkeep, Mike casts Reality Shift, targeting Sun Titan. Sun Titan is exiled, and Zach manifests the top card of his library. He draws and then plays a Plains for turn. He casts Tokatli Honor Guard. He follows up with a Back to Basics. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws again. Zach passes the turn. Ryan draws, and then starts off his turn by casting Anger of the Gods. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws. Then Anger resolves and deals 3 damage to each creature. Ryan activates Anja, discarding Dark Withering, untapping Anja. He casts it for its madness cost, targeting Nezahal. Nezahal triggers, and Mike draws. In response, Mike activates Nezahal, discarding 3 cards and exiling it. He moves to combat and attacks Narset with Anje. Narset takes it, and Ryan passes the turn. Mike draws, and then starts off his turn by casting Soul Ring. He casts Regrowth, targeting Dispel in his graveyard. He casts Isochron Scepter. Isochron enters, and Mike imprints Dramatic Reversal. He activates Isochron, showing a loop and presenting infinite mana. He casts Spectral Sailor. He activates Spectral Sailor with his infinite mana to start drawing cards. He has to be careful, because if he draws too many, he could deck himself, or someone could make him draw through Nezahal's mandatory trigger to make him lose the game. He casts a Trophy Mage. It enters, and Mike searches, fails to find, and shuffles. He casts Pemin's Aura, targeting Trophy Mage. He casts Verity Circle. He then casts Thassa's Oracle. Oracle enters, and Mike counts up his devotion to blue, counts the cards in his library, sees his devotion exceeds his library, and wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what a game. Congrats to Mike on his win. Kinnan's ability to repeatedly create more mana, followed by his second ability to put creatures onto the battlefield, is what sealed the game for Mike. The most valuable card goes to Nezahal, Primal Tide. This card at first glance seems like a silly, overcosted, non-competitive card, but the value you get while guaranteeing it resolves and being able to protect itself is what makes this card so good. We wanted to thank everyone again for their encouragement and support of this series. We had a blast playing these games, and we will keep making them as long as you all keep enjoying them. Also, be sure to check out the links in the description below. We wanted to provide the community with more and more resources to get started with budget CEDH. We hope that these lists, as well as these videos, can continue to inspire others to get into the format. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. If you liked this video and wanted to help out, please give us a like, and consider subscribing and ringing the bell if you want to be notified of more videos. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Okay, I wanted to give a Patreon shout out to Tyler Hancox, Snarps the Cleft, I think that's right, RJ Johnson, Matt Wingrove, Delph Driz, Brandon Harper, Marcus Toomey, Dustin Maye, Josh Kovach? Maybe. Baby Jeebus, Mox Rob, Trey Payne, Rakeko, Baskin, Zods, Noah Saldana, Wayan, Spilrahu, Road Grode Medflode, CZ, and Nick. Thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate it.